Hey guys, Scott here. Today I wanted to have a quick discussion about cheesing things in Elden Ring and really the Souls game in general, because it's definitely a very rife problem with the community where there's a lot of elitism. If you didn't beat the game naked with a +0 club, then you suck, etc. That has definitely been a thing that's been very pervasive through all the Souls games, and Elden Ring is unfortunately no exception with that. But interestingly, I have sort of points on both sides of the argument. And before you claw at my throat, let me explain what I mean by that. I think people are having the wrong discussion entirely. And I wanted to kind of go over what I think the discussion should be. I actually was just scrolling through my Twitter in bed this morning and I saw Fighting Cowboy. He's a great Elden Ring content creator. Talk about this in a tweet, and I agree with a lot of his sentiment. But I do want to bring up one thing that I think, I think people are talking about the wrong thing here. In his tweet, he says, "I don't know who needs to hear this, but powerful weapon arts, spells, ashen summons, etc. are not cheesing. They're literally just playing the game with the tools provided. You want to use a 10-second infinite FP flask and common azure, go for it. It's still a victory," which is completely true. That's absolutely still a victory if you beat the game doing all that stuff. It's not like you didn't win. You absolutely beat the game. The thing I want to discuss, though, is the part where he says that's not cheesing, because I completely disagree with that. I think there's two sides to this. A, that's absolutely cheesing, and B, who gives a shit if you want to cheese the game? I think that's the more important takeaway from this type of discussion. So, how many times have you had a Souls enemy behind a wall or something like that, and you found such an angle where you could hit him through the wall and kill it? That, as most people would describe, is cheesing the enemy. But it's typically not really met with any disdain or anything like that. That's just a creative way of killing that enemy. And I think that's the main point of the point that I want to make, the whole discussion I want to have, is that cheesing has an inherent negative bias in the community. And I don't view cheesing as a negative thing whatsoever. On the contrary, I sometimes think of cheesing as a very creative way to find solutions to the problems in the game. So when people say that, using this stuff is not cheesing, I both disagree because it is cheesing, but then I also disagree with people giving him shit because there's nothing wrong with cheesing something. In fact, that's what speedrunning is. You find as much cheese as humanly possible to skip the mechanics of the game so you can beat it as quickly as possible. And I think that's awesome. That's a really cool skill to have. So cheesing, to me, the definition of it is doing whatever you can to circumvent having to encounter the mechanics of a particular challenge. I think that's actually pretty much the universal definition of cheesing. And so if you walk into a boss fight, as Cowboy said, with infinite FP and common azure and you stun lock it to death for 10 seconds, you are cheesing the boss. You are making it so you don't have to fight the boss. You just pull the button and it dies without you having to learn a single thing. So to kid yourself and say you're not cheesing the boss, I think is not quite honest with yourself. But at the same time, there's nothing to be ashamed about for doing it. Just be open with the fact that you're cheesing it and accept that that's okay. And people giving you shit for doing it can go eat a dick because you bought the game. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. That's, I think, the whole point. You're allowed to cheese the game. Just don't pretend you're not doing it. It's funny because people always kind of defend one side of this argument where they say, elitists are saying, oh, you didn't beat the game with a naked guy with a club. You didn't have the true Souls experience, blah, 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 and all that horse shit that they absolutely do. But on the flip side, there are actually people, for example, as a streamer, there are people that come into a lot of people's chats when they're struggling with something and say, oh my God, how are you struggling with Radon? He was so easy. And I think that's the lesser spoken about other side of the coin here, where people do use cheese mechanics. They're like, wow, why'd you find Malenia so hard as they enter the boss fight with a mimic tiered bleed twin blade and stun lock her to death? She was so easy. You suck. There's absolutely that going on too. So there's actually two sides of this coin. It's not just the elitism, it's the reverse elitism as well for people that did use cheese and they talk shit about people who are genuinely struggling because they simply chose not to. Again, not that any of the choices either of them made are worthy of shaming at all. I'm just saying there are actually two sides to this where both sides do that to each other. The end result of all of this should be it's okay to cheese things. There's nothing inherently wrong with cheesing things. And the main thing is you stop giving a shit about what other people do. Just if they want to cheese the game, let them do it. Just who fucking cares? And if you cheese the game and find it way easier than someone struggling, just keep it to yourself. Good job. Stop giving shit to other people. The main takeaway, mind your own fucking business. Let people do whatever the hell they want in their game. It's okay if they want to cheese the game. Let's accept that they're doing that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And on the flip side, don't give people shit if you found the game easier because you did it. Very simple. Basically, TLDR, just mind your own fucking business. They bought the game. Let them do whatever the hell they want. That's it.